Okay everybody, today I'm doing a little bit of electrical work on Mum's horse truck as it is. It's an old Isuzu FSR. Yep, FSR, I think it's 95 model. Having trouble with the batteries going flat on it. Yeah, I think it's got a current draw issue. I'm going to put a battery isolator on it, so it won't matter if I do fix the current draw issue. It's going to get a battery isolator anyway. So what I thought I'd show you is how to check for current draw. It's the same principle on a 12 volt system. This runs 24 volts, and it's the same from an old truck like this all the way up to your brand new bloody Mercedes-Benz, I guess. Yeah, so I've had this running. It should be pretty charged up at the moment, so we'll disconnect what we have to disconnect, and I'll show you the procedure to check if you've got current draw happening. Okay, first thing we're going to do is disconnect this negative terminal. So because it's 24 volts, the two batteries are jumped together by this jumper lead. We need to disconnect this one because it's the main earth, and this is how you test it. So we'll take that off, and then we'll get our multimeter and test. Yeah, so for those who don't know what current draw is, it's basically how much current is being drawn away from your batteries. So basically draining the power out of them, which is what will happen with normal usage when you're using the batteries. You don't really want it to happen when the truck or car is just off. It will lose a certain amount, and there's like a, I think it's like realistically around 0.03 of an amp is sort of okay. Much more than that, and you've got more of a current draw issue. The batteries will just over time lose charge. It's just how they work, but they shouldn't lose charge quickly. So we're trying to find out how much current draw this has actually got, and then we'll try and see if I can work out what's drawing the current. This could be like a short to power or something, or if there's some electronical part that's just using power somehow. Nothing's on, but it's got all the accessories for the box on this horse truck, so it's possible that something is still drawing power. There's also this 12 volt setup. Whoever did it didn't do a real fantastic job of the wiring, and I'm not exactly sure how it works. All I know is it's taking 12 volt off this 24 volt system for the box, and I think it's for the tailgate loader as well on the back. So it could possibly be drawn from something off this, but we'll get to that when we get to it. All right, so here's my multimeter. It's just a snap-on one, nothing particularly special about it. It's pretty good though. So we'll have to change a couple of things around on this. So to test for current draw, we need to set it to amps DC. So we'll turn it around to 10. So that's set on 10, and then we need to move the positive cable across to the 10 amp fused, that one there, and just leave the negative one where it is. You need to make sure you've got it switched over, or else you won't get the correct reading. And also you want to be careful that you don't put your positive lead onto anything with more than 10 amps, or you'll blow the fuse. So just remember that when you've finished using the amp side of the meter, that you put it back to volts or whatever else you were using, and put your lead back into your volt port there. So with that all set up, now we can disconnect the negative battery terminal. Now just be careful when you're doing stuff with batteries that you don't short something out. One of the things that can happen. Alright, so now that we have the battery disconnected, or the negative part of the battery, what you're going to do is get your two ends of your multimeter and put one end on the post, the negative post, and then one on the negative clamp. So with the two leads connected up, what we're doing is creating the earth, but running it through the multimeter, so we can see how much power is being drawn back through the earth. So I've got the two leads hooked up to the negative post and the negative terminal, and I'm actually getting a reading of 0. So it's telling me that there is no current draw, current draw being drawn from the battery, which is odd. I thought there would have been something. Yeah, so we'll have a bit of a play around. I'll also check the 12 volt side over here, which is just the same. Hook it up to the negative terminal, and then put it onto this negative post, because the negative lead hooks up with this one as well. And it doesn't seem to be drawing anything either. I might even hook the 12 volt battery back up just to test it too. So you can see the multimeter now, it's just still reading 0, sorry, not 2. And I've actually got it set on 2 amps now, just to see if it would change. We'll put it back to 10. Yeah, still 0. So what I'll do though, just to demonstrate the purpose, I'll turn the ignition on and then we'll see how much current draw having the ignition on creates. Alrighty, we now have the ignition on the truck. So once I hook up the two leads, it'll create a circuit back to earth, and then we should get a reading. There we go. So we're drawing 1.34 of an amp. Oh well, 1 amp and 1.3 amps. So you can see that's what it is drawing off the batteries now. So if that was if that was like that when your ignition was turned off, you definitely have a really bad current draw reading. So yeah, as that's reading there now, that's okay. We'll take that back off and it goes back to 0. So that's odd. I thought I was going to see a reading of something drawing amperage. What I'll do though is I'll put the battery back here and test that and see if it changes anything. And if not, well, I suppose it might be just an issue with the batteries, which is strange because we've put new batteries in it and it still keeps drawing. Yeah, it doesn't get used that much though, which is also a problem. So yeah, I'll turn that ignition back off and we'll hook the battery back up here and see if we get any change in reading. Rightio, so I've put this 12 volt battery, 12 volt battery back into the 12 volt section of the truck. So this is for the accessories on the box. I'm not exactly sure what else it runs. I think it runs the tailgate loader too. So we'll do the same thing, see what happens. Oh, we got something. I heard a little click of electricity there. And it looks like we've got 0.02 of an amp. So I would say that's acceptable, but that must be what's draining it. Alright, hopefully you can read the multimeter. Alright, so I'm hooking it back up again. It jumps up to 0.7 or 0.07, but then comes down to 0.2. So yeah, we're losing 0.02 of an amp at the moment to something to do with the box side of the truck. So that would be where our current draws from. It's not very much though, which is the strange thing. So yeah, it's hovering between 1 and 2 now. Well, seem to have found the current draw. It's such a minute amount though that I'm surprised that that's what the issue is. It could be that a combination of the batteries being in poor condition or whatever, even though we have put new ones in it. Yeah, odd. So I did disconnect this Anderson plug to see if that made any difference. I think this might run the this might run the what do you call it? Bloody tailgate loader ramp. Cause it's got a hydraulic pump on it. But it didn't seem to do any difference. So the way that you would go through now to find what is drawing your current, if it was for the main truck, I'd just go into the cab and start pulling the fuses out and just keep checking if the current draw drops. And then once you work out what fuse it is, then you work out what system it's running. For this 12 volt system on the back, I think it would just be a case of disconnecting wires off the battery here to work out what is drawing the current. But unfortunately, I don't know what any of these wires actually run, and I'd have to trace them all back to their origins and work it out that way. Regardless, this is getting an isolator switch. I might have to put a second one for this 12 volt system because it may not stop the current draw putting one onto the main section, but it doesn't matter, they're like 20 bucks, so it's cheap security really. And so just a tip on when you're doing it, when you are actually checking your current draw, if you're doing it on a modern day car that has like ECU computers and stuff inside, when you are going to do this test, you need to shut your doors on your car, put your window down, have your ignition turned off, and then lock the vehicle. So once it's locked and the ignition is off, all the computers and everything will then turn off. You need to give it a few minutes for everything to shut down, then disconnect your battery, then put your multimeter on and just test how we just tested then. But when you've put it on, you need to let it sit. Yeah, you need to have the leads on there and let it sit for a little while, because the amperage, once you've connected it up to the battery, you're then restarting the computers, or it'll, like, since it's got battery voltage in it, it will start doing its thing again. You need to let it sit for a minute with your leads on your multimeter on the battery and the negative terminal, and after a while the amperage will drop back down to its normal resting position, and that's how much amperage you're actually drawing. So just give it a minute or so to get its proper reading. With old stuff like this, there's no computers, so you don't really need to wait. It just sits, unless you've got some sort of computerized stuff running off accessories. But yeah, that's pretty much how you test for current draw. Alright, so after a bit of stuffing around and looking to try and find out what this wire powered, I couldn't find anything in the end. Everything still seemed to work inside the box on the truck, yeah, with it disconnected. So I'm just going to leave it disconnected, and when Mum uses the truck, she might work out what powers it. But everything seems to be working, so as long as this wire's not on, this battery won't lose any charge, and neither will these two, because they both share. Yeah, so we'll put all this back together, and I'll just tape this wire up, and that'll be done. So I'm going to put a battery isolator onto the main batteries anyway, and we'll see how we go, and if I need to put a second one on for that second battery there, then I will. But hopefully the one battery isolator will sort it, and hopefully these batteries will last a little bit longer. The truck needs to get run more regularly though, it doesn't get used enough, but it is what it is. So yeah, hopefully you found the video helpful to if you're testing batteries like this, and hopefully answered a few questions, and hopefully you enjoyed the video. So anyway, we'll leave it there, and I'll catch us in the next one. All right.